Recruiting in college football, playing in the trenches, both are a dirty job. But somebody's got to do it.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every single day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, it's always free, and I always appreciate your support. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is a dirty job. We've heard this before, especially when you're going to fill the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. You got to work hard. And the guys that they're recruiting, they got to work harder. It is the thankless position, but they're the most important positions on the team. This is how you build a successful college football program from the inside out, starting on the line, both sides of the ball. You need to be big up front, right? Everything after that, you worry about everything after that. Have guys that can protect your quarterback, have guys who can open up holes for your running backs. On the other side of the ball, have guys who can go get into the backfield and crush quarterbacks and make running backs not want to carry the ball. You have guys on your roster who do that, you're probably going to have a successful season. USC's 2025 recruiting class is off to a really, really good start. And by the way, I think by the time February, that signing period is done, and the transfer portal, that gets done dropping off some players out there in LA, USC's campus, I think Coach Riley's roster should be more talented than the one that won 11 games. Remember, the roster that was going to be his least talented, he's now going into year 4. I get it. Still got the bowl game to play. He's basically his clock has started on year 4. Probably started a little bit sooner than everybody else's. Without a doubt, okay, the strength of this year's recruiting cycle, the 2025 class, it's the guys up front, both sides of the ball. I don't think anybody's going to argue that point. On the offensive side, you've got Aaron Dunn, offensive tackle, Alex Payne, offensive tackle, Willie Washer, interior offensive lineman. I think he's being recruited to play center, his natural position. And then definitely not the last guy on my mind. He's the biggest guy in the class. You've got big Elijah Vicona, another offensive tackle. Needs are being met. Okay. So now you've added 4 more offensive linemen. You're stacking that on top of the 10 that Coach Riley and Coach Henson have recruited in the past 2 cycles. And the reason why you want to go 4 to 5 deep each class, it's because, especially offensive line, it is it is by far the hardest position group to project. So you have that variable involved. Plus, guys are going to use the transfer portal. Look, it makes sense when a veteran leaves. Somebody like a Gino Quinones. But I'm just going to use Amos Talalele as an example. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And after 2 years, he's decided he's ready to move on. So this is why you always want to have 4 or 5 offensive linemen per recruiting cycle. Again, because some guys just don't pan out, and eventually the veterans, matriculate and attrition out of the program. Others, on their own accord say, you know what, I might not be getting what I need here. I'm going somewhere else. And when you're looking at next year's projected offensive line, it's going to be young. It's going to be a lot of youth out there. I mean, Elijah Page, your starting left tackle, he'll be your vet. He's a junior, true junior. but there's a question mark at left guard. It's probably going to be a first or second year player. What about center? Is it going to be Killian O'Connor? Is it going to be one of the first and second year guys that they've recruited? Makai Saina, the big dude. Right guard, Alani Noah. What about right tackle? Is it Mason Murphy? Again, there's going to be a lot of youthful guys to choose from. But right now, you could see offensive line in 2025, kind of a question mark. Does that mean the staff is going to the transfer portal for experience? I want you to hang on to that, which, by the way, why do I not have this up? Let's do, hold on, I apologize. There we go. There's today's rundown. So we're talking about the trenches. I want you to, I'm talking about, offensive line right now, what USC might or might not go into as far as the transfer portal. Check out what I'm talking about in the next segment. So kind of hold on to that. Do you need to go in to the transfer portal and get guys to play on the offensive line in 2025? I'll explain why coming up here shortly. Now, in the other trench, defensive line. The last couple of classes, I think it's obvious USC has made a very concerted effort to fill in that trench, get the guys bigger, stronger, guys who can compete, especially in the big conference. So this is who they've added this cycle so far. Just to remind everybody, not everybody listens to the show every day, although they should. So you've got Jakeem Thanos Stewart, 6'6", 270 pounds. He's supposed to be going into his senior year of high school next year. He reclassified. He's considered one of the top prospects in the country, immediate impact type of guy. You're also adding Gus Cordova, 6'5", 255. Good size for a pass rusher, guy you want on the defensive end. You've got a guy named Cash Jacobson, 6'5", 290 pounds. Yeah, that screams 3 technique, defensive tackle. You need a guy right over the ball. How about Floyd Boucard, 6'3", 315? Don't forget, you got guys on that side of the ball that didn't play this year, like Carlon Jones and Ratumanu Bulabalavu, big boys. You got Jade Abasiri, who barely played. There's good size in the trenches now. And now we're starting to see some guys who are being recruited who I would consider immediate impact guys. Guys like Jakeem Stewart, who are going to be anticipated to come in, kind of get a feel for it in the spring. And when regular season rolls around, you better be ready. You might not be starting game one. If you're that good, you will be. But you got to be ready to contribute. By the way, did you see what Thanos put out there on X today or the other day, depending on when you're watching this episode? Quote, the 2026 class that I'm putting together will go down in USC football history. If you're not ready to put in the work and grind, don't come out west. I know who the real ballers are. Those rankings don't fool me. I know who's who. End quote. Okay. He hasn't even practiced with USC yet. And look who the leader of your recruiting class is. He's barely been a Trojan for 36, 48 hours. And all of a sudden, he's making threats. I love it. You should too. So let's put the trenches into context. What USC did this cycle, the last couple cycles compared to in the past. So between 2023, 2024, and now the 2025 class, USC has added 28 high school linemen to the roster. And you can split that evenly right down the middle, 14 on each side of the ball. That's great balance. Now, in the 5 classes previous, 2018 through 2022, the Trojans signed 25 total high school linemen, 12 on defense, 13 on offense. See the disparity there? This is what Coach Riley said during his signing day press conference. The defensive line, the offensive line, as you can tell, with what we've signed up to this point, were huge. They were very, very important. I would have put another very in there just to emphasize it. Anyways, we were able to get the numbers, the body types, the sizes. I know I've been asked a lot through this last year about how we are adapting and changing our roster. And one of the big things has been the added size, added weight. And as we talked about, there's part of that, which is developing the guys in-house. The other part is obviously recruiting those body types. You see what we brought in here today, and there's certainly a real effort to do that, end quote. So yes, there is that focus, that emphasis. I'm hoping now that, Coach Riley said at the beginning of last year, this past season, we've got the guys up front now, that we've got the right size, the mass. We feel we can push guys around. Still didn't lean into that run game enough, though. Maybe now, one more year into it, he'll feel a little bit more confident. I'm just hoping. I'm throwing it out there. One last note before we go on to our next segment, where we're going to talk about, elite guys on both sides of the ball. Did USC just find another guy that they're adding? Sounds like it. Gabriel Lightfoot. Name sound familiar? We talked about him heading into the 2024 season. There was a lot of talk that he was going to jump into the transfer portal and join USC's program last year. Well, didn't happen. For whatever reason, didn't happen. Well, he's in the transfer portal now. Okay? He doesn't want to be coached by Matt Entz. It's got nothing against Coach Entz. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. But he has an opportunity with 1 year left to be coached up by USC's defensive line coaches. Coach Kenny, Coach Nua. Get some Lynn words of advice, defensive coordinator. So as long as Gabriel checks off all the boxes at USC, the prerequisites, the academic stuff, he's coming to USC. That's going to be the landing spot as far as I've been told. And there shouldn't be any issues because, from what I understand, Stanford has already cleared him. So Stanford is his backup school. He wants to be at USC. Not often you hear Stanford's the backup plan. And I'm talking about academics. But there was a time when Stanford had a really good football program. And I'm rooting for guys like Vianney Talamayavu, who was the offensive line coach there, and Vavai Malapai, who's also on staff over there. So rooting for the Trojans, even though they're at Stanford. Rooting for those two guys. We'll see. Hopefully Gabriel gets added Monday, the transfer portal, December 9th through the 28th. It'll be open. There'll be a lot of activity. We'll see what happens. All right. We got more coming up. First, we're going to do this. Man, I'm a little slow this tonight. I apologize. Look, I love a great deal as much as the next guy. But you know what? I'm not going to go do Klondike ice cream bar type of stuff or act like a Bruin fan just to save a few bucks. If I'm going to get a great deal, it has to be easy. I don't want to jump through any hoops. No BS. None of that type of stuff. Okay? So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, called them on it. Turns out it was really easy. Really easy to get $15 a month. In fact, the longest part of the process, it was the time spent waiting on hold to, break up with the old provider. To get started, this is what you need to do. Go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Okay? That's easy. There you're going to see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts as well. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new service and the new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. 45 upfront payment, a $45 upfront payment required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower than 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Is it time for everyone, coaching staffs, and is it time for USC to reconsider how they recruit for roster success? Yesterday's episode, I talked about California recruiting a little bit. I want to take it down a different rabbit hole. If it starts up front in the trenches, okay, just talked about in the first segment, filling in offensive linemen, filling in the defensive linemen. If that's where it starts, and that's the most important area to build your roster, build your team, is it more important then to have an elite left tackle blindside? So if you've got a left-handed quarterback and an elite right tackle, or so is it more important to have one of those and an elite pass rusher, or is it still more important to have an elite quarterback? I thought, you know what? It's an interesting question. Let me look at it a little bit. Let me think about it. I looked at the teams that are projected to be in the playoffs. Okay. Teams like Ohio State, Will Howard, 1-year rental. Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, 1-year rental. Miami, Cam Ward, 1-year rental. Texas, Quinn Ewers. All right, technically not a 1-year rental. He's been there a couple of years, but you get my drift. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, 1-year rental. That's nearly half the projected field. I mean, that's a lot. And I get that each year is different when you're looking at the transfer portal and quarterbacks that are available. Last year, the portal offered lots of quarterback options. I just rattled off all of them, right? Not so much this offseason so far. I think if you're looking at who's available, Miller Moss, he's probably the hottest commodity. And that's not a knock on Miller. I mean, there just aren't that many tier 1 quarterbacks to compare him to. Then again, I said, so far, because once the conference championship games are played this weekend, that could all change as quickly as Thanos doing that. I mentioned on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC that USC's third string quarterback, the backup's backup, Miller's backup, Jake Jensen, he's going into the transfer portal, which means USC needs one. They have to go into the transfer portal this offseason and get another quarterback. Because right now, you've got Jaden Mayava on scholarship. You got Gage Roy, preferred walk-on. He's getting second-team reps right now. And then you got Husan Longstreet enrolling in January, ready for spring camp. So since USC already has an elite left tackle, Elijah Page, and you got a few younger guys behind him in the bullpen now, including, the two guys I talked about coming in, I don't think they need to pay for an elite left tackle in the transfer portal. And you can agree or disagree with me. I think the future looks really bright in the pass rushing department on the defensive line. Cameron Fountain really came along great at the end of the year. Sam Green, I think he's going to be a special player with his speed. Braylon Shelby. You got Thanos. You got some other younger guys on the roster right now. Sorry, my brain isn't kind of functioning, so I apologize for names just not popping in my head. So since those positions are filled, which type of quarterback do you want out of the portal? And to the original question, I know that Husan is coming in, but he probably needs a year to acclimate. So does Coach Riley now want to go get a multiple year starter type? A first year, must win now quarterback? like what Ohio State and Oregon and what Miami did? Or do you want to go get just a depth piece, a backup, just to keep the natural order happy? And I'm talking about Jade Mayava this year, as well as him anticipating being the starter in 2025. And then after that, it's the battle, between Mayava, if he's still around, and Husong Longstreet. So which type of quarterback now do you get? Because I think you've addressed your needs on both sides of the ball. You've got your elite left tackle. You've got elite pass rushers, assuming Thanos becomes that elite pass rusher. And those other guys I mentioned take the next progressive step in their development. So now quarterback is an issue this year going into 2025, numbers wise. So what type of quarterback should Lincoln Riley get? What do you think? Hit me up. Let me know in the comment section, because I think Lincoln's at a crossroads right now, because he has to decide, is he going to continue with the air raid type of offense and incorporate the running game into that, or is he going to become more balanced? And that's going to be part of my Friday rant, because I heard what Coach Matt Entz said, and I'm going to tie that all together. So stick around for that. We're not done with this segment yet, though. So getting back to that quarterback question, and the reason why it's important, then I think you have to look ahead. Someone told me recently that there's a 60% chance that the quarterback you recruit, they never will end up taking a snap at that school. Really? It's not a good percentage number. I mean, there's a chance, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's an opportunity. There's a 60% chance that Husong Longstreet never takes a snap at quarterback at USC. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully he is the dude. All right, since we're talking about the transfer portal, just a couple of notes here before I go to the next segment. Wide receiver, Kyron Hudson. He sent out a message, let everybody know on social media he's out. He's going to test the transfer portal waters. He said, thank you, and he'll always be a Trojan. A little bit more than that, but that was the gist of it. Kyron finished the year third on the team in receptions, 38. He had 3 touchdowns. And if you think about it, he made some of the most memorable catches this past season. He won the game in Vegas single-handedly, literally and figuratively. So is he the first wide receiver or the last of the group to hit the transfer portal? I don't know, but there is some. I've been talking about what's going to happen with that group. There's been some smoke. Hopefully, we can get that thing all settled down, and each one of those sophomores are going to be here in 2025. Isn't it kind of crazy, though, that the 2 guys who performed so well in game 1, and I'm talking about Miller Moss and Kyron Hudson, both of them are moving on at the end of the year. It's crazy. Some good news. Eric Gentry, he's coming back. He made the announcement. That's great news. One more playmaker on that side of the ball. I just want to see him play a full season on the field. So USC did not get their top number 1 linebacker that they wanted in this last recruiting cycle, and that's going to be part of my Friday rant. But they did get Eric Gentry to come back. Fair trade? No, like I said, Eric Gentry's a playmaker. He's got at least another year. Can you stay on the field for the whole year? Because I know once he was gone, once he got injured, once with a concussion, USC's defense took a little bit of a dive. A little bit. Could have used Eric. Well, they're getting him back. All right, coming up, Friday Rant. Stick around. Get ready to tackle the NFL season get ready to tackle your NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and now you can do everything all in one place. You need your stats, go to FanDuel. You want to check out live play-by-play, go to FanDuel. You need to place another bet, get over to FanDuel.com. Join today. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to be very clear about this, okay? I am not mad. I am not upset with Coach Matt Entz becoming Fresno State's head coach. That's why he stepped down from North Dakota State. He was very upfront about it. He said it at his introductory press conference. He needed the recruiting experience at this level so he can become a head coach at the FBS level. I hope he kills it. I really do. Now, the timing sucked, and that's really what I want to rant about, the timing of this, how it's kind of playing out. But two things from Coach Entz taking his first FBS head coaching job gave me a couple things to rant about. Look, I'm not saying it was some nefarious move. I don't think that's what he was doing here. It does seem like, once the first opportunity came along, he jumped on it. But it also looks like once he had Madden Faremo, the word around town was he was locked in. He was going to be a Trojan. He was going to commit. But then word came down that Matt Entz was considering the head coaching job, and all of a sudden, it wasn't. It wasn't coming to USC anymore. He needed to think about it. He had to sit down and again, he spoke to God. Polynesian community, especially if you go to Bosco, very religious, very devout, no problem with that. But Matt Entz's departure allowed Notre Dame to get their third big linebacker in the last 4 years that should be at USC. Forget Manti Te'o. I'm not even referring to Manti Te'o. Okay, number one, he's not from California. He's from Hawaii. I'm talking about Junior Tuihalamaka from Bishop Alemany. That was what, 3 years ago. You've got Kingston Viliamuasa last year. He needed to see, more on USC's defense. And then this year, the aforementioned Madden Faremo. So it almost feels like once Matt Entz was able to say, yeah, I had Madden committed. He was going to be a Trojan. All of a sudden, he felt he was ready to be a head coach again. I think there's a little bit more to that. No conspiracy theory going on here. There's a lot of talk going on right now behind the scenes about the vibe at USC and Coach Riley and how he likes to do things his own way and how sometimes he can rub people the wrong way. Very confident. And sometimes when you're very confident, comes off arrogant. I've been told. I think that's why I understand Coach Riley and I relate to that personality so well. I think how much I want Coach Riley to commit to the running game more and adapt his personnel instead of trying to force his system on players who might not fit it the best. Well, let me ask you this. Did you catch Coach Entz's presser, his introductory presser as Fresno State's head coach? What was your first reaction when you heard Coach Entz say the following about what his offensive identity is going to be? On offense, quote, I want to be able to run the football. The way the rules have changed over the course of the last couple of years and the clock not stopping on first downs, teams are getting the ball 1 or 2 times less per game. And if you can be dominant, and if you can be that dominant line of scrimmage team and control the clock, you have a great opportunity to win games, end quote. Okay, everything that I've been critiquing Coach Riley about, his play calling, clock management, it's the first thing Coach Entz talked about one of the first things out of the box. I find that really interesting. And I wonder if it hastened his exit, his timeline. Did he want to be a head coach sooner again? Because, you know what? His coaching philosophy and Coach Riley's philosophy, maybe they didn't coalesce together. Maybe they weren't able to coexist. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. He also said on defense, if we feel we can recruit to a 4-down system, I think we definitely will. Are we going to be a 4-3 or a 4-2-5? I think part of that depends on what we see weekly. But I do want to have the flexibility that we can jump in and out of personnel groupings and have some substitution packages. That sounds a lot like Coach Antonlynn. So again, I'm just, I'm reading between the lines. I'm trying to, get into the head here. Does Coach Entz want to be more like his own style, more like Coach Lynn? And is that why he's leaving so early? Again, I don't think anybody anticipated Coach to be around a long time. But I would have loved to have seen him coach one more year at USC and develop the guys who USC recruited. My last thing I want to say before we close out this show and this week, men's hoops. They lost against Oregon. They had the lead up until about 4:08 to left to go in the game, and then they never led again. They led up until then, whole game. But men's hoops is going to be a lot like the football season. It's going to be a long one, but it's going to be worse. They're not really good. They're not very good. No point guard. They don't have much quickness on defense, especially laterally. They're a poor rebounding team. Offensively, it's 1-on-1. It's 1-on-1, get to the free throw line. So, I'm not going to talk about that much today. We'll talk about basketball more. But, yeah, it's going to be a rough year. It's going to be a rough year. All right, I'll be back with more episodes next week, another 5. If something breaking comes down, I might pop in during the weekend. We'll see what happens. But again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Locked On USC. When you're done making this show your first watch every day, get on over there to WeRC.com. A lot of good stuff. All right, until then, everyone, you know what to do.